Welcome to Love's the Magic. I am Moriah Fey, the love promoter. I am so happy to bring Ana Maria Sanchez to you today. Ana Maria is a self-love specialist. She's got a very interesting story which she'll tell you about, because she comes from a history at a very young age of drugs and alcohol and helped herself to the point through self-love where now she is an empowerment and spiritual guidance counselor and self-love specialist. Here is Ana Maria. Hi, Ana Maria. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start at the beginning. Let's start at the beginning of the story. Please tell us.
Well, let's see. I had a nice enough childhood. My parents were doing the best they could, but we had some guests that came to live with us at that time, and that my grandmother had invited to come and rent. In order to help them, she had them rent a space there so they can get ahead in life. And this woman came with her son, and he was an adolescent at the time. He was about 14, 15 years old, and I was about 6 years old at the time. And unfortunately, everything started off very nicely, but unfortunately, it became something very dysfunctional, and where he ended up molesting me from 6 to 8 years old. And that really derailed me after that. It really affected my sense of self-worth and who I was to be in life and how I was to choose my partners after that. Because once such a trauma happens to someone, it really splinters you.
Oh, absolutely. That's my experience too. Yeah. Did you tell your parents about that?
I did not tell them until I was older. I really tried to approach them.
So you went through that by yourself.
Right. And dealing with that kind of shame and that kind of lack of who can you trust, you feel. And he had embedded in me such fear that if I told, which many predators do, if I told anyone, that I would be punished even more severely. But whether it be by my parents or by him, and he really got into my psyche and convinced me of that. So my life was one after that became filled with rage and anger and depression, and I started acting out. And many times at that age, how do you act out? But you turn to friends who are probably just as hurt as you are, and then we turn to drugs and alcohol to numb that pain and to mask what we're feeling. And then it just became a series of nightmare stories after that.
And how young were you how old were you when you started into drugs and alcohol, into that lifestyle?
I was 11 years old when I started drinking.
Okay.
Heavily, and I was 11 years old. And by the time I was 13, got into marijuana, and then 14 and up, the hard street drugs. And that became a lifestyle fueled by daily doses of insanity. And the relationships I got into were just as violent and chaotic as they could be.
And look how beautiful you are.
Oh, thank
you are so beautiful. You've come so far. I mean, you really are a beautiful woman.
I worked hard at having inner peace. It was quite a journey, and been quite a tough road to travel, but the rewards were magnificent in the end. All the hard work paid off.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. How did you make that change? What happened? I mean, how did you get out of that and into what you're doing?
Well, I began studying psychology. I knew that I wanted to help others never have to go through this, or if they were already in it, how to deal with that kind of pain. And I guess I got into psychology too to help others in a way, hoping that I was probably trying to save myself.
Yes.
I was likely, with each person I tried to help, I was really hoping to save them, but that was a way to save that little girl in me that no one rescued at that time.
You are a self-love specialist. Now, how did you come about being that way? It's a wonderful label to give yourself. It's a wonderful title to have. Yeah. How did that come about?
Well, I knew enough to know once you're going into through the veins of psychology training that you yourself must get some help and figure things out of your own psyche. So I started going to psychotherapy, and I started doing the inner work, but never deep enough, because every time that a therapist would try to take me to that wounded place, I wanted to just stay in the moment, in the now, and let's discuss the dysfunction that's happening in my life today. And it wasn't until about a decade of doing that, it wasn't until I would say I was 35 that I realized you have to go deeper, Anna. You have to go to that wounded place and retrieve your inner child, to retrieve that part of your spirit that was left behind, that was so scared and splintered off, to keep from going insane.
Is that when you started working with Louise Hay?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
That was in 2004. In 2004, I began doing the real training to go ever inward, and there I began to realize that it was about self-love. And it had never been poised to me that way before. It was always, mentally imbalanced, get better, you want to be normal, you want to be healthy of mind and spirit, but never had I heard the term self-love.
Talk to us about self-love.
Well, self-love is about really accepting yourself, the journey you've been on, and the forgiveness. The big key and the big piece is
Right.
self-forgiveness and forgiveness of others. Letting
How
go
do
of
you
blame.
forgive? Forgiveness is so huge, and everybody says forgive, forgive. How do you forgive yourself?
Learning to have compassion and understanding that you were not the one who set these things in motion, especially at that young, tender age of only 6 years old. And to understand and have sympathy and empathy for the person, the predator, because they obviously also had a story. For them to be able to take out such hurt and inflict such hurt on another person, they themselves had to learn that somewhere.
Right.
Or had it done to
absolutely.
them. So learning to have compassion and a lot of assessing of the story, sitting with the story.
And Anna, what in terms of learning compassion, what do you say to people about that? How do you teach people? How do you bring people to the first step of that?
Well, the way that I was taught and the way that I was taken into that part of self-discovery was I did a lot of journal writing.
Okay.
Writing out my story, no matter how hard it was, and leaving out no details.
So
As
it's
best as I
facing
can
it.
remember. Yeah, sitting with it, facing it, allowing myself to let the emotions, all the emotions, the whole gamut of rage and of pain and of guilt and of shame, and then moving into forgiveness and compassion, and then surrendering it, and not allowing it to control me anymore.
Okay, and when you're talking about surrender, you're talking about surrendering it to a higher power?
For me, yes. For me, it
Okay.
is God, the universe, goddess,
Uh-huh.
all that is.
Yeah.
And that takes practice.
It
Yeah.
does, but it's so important. I agree with that, that we need a higher power that we can rely on,
Yeah.
that we feel that we can rely on for help. Even though we're doing the work. We're
Right.
doing the work down here, you know?
And we're not alone. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. The whole thing about self-love and your work is so important, though, because when we love ourselves, I mean, you know this, you teach us all the time, we bring that in.
Yeah.
And when we release that pain, we don't bring those painful reminders in all the time. Where we are
And we no longer attract it into our lives.
exactly
We no longer
law of
attract
attraction
it.
with
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
And that's a big piece. Once you realize how much accountability that you own and how much of a choice you really have and how your life is to play out, that is
Yes.
empowering. That I actually realized and said, I have a choice in how this goes and how I choose to review this journey I've been on, this story, and I have a choice of how I choose to remember it.
Yeah. Now, what do you say to people that tell you that you're selfish because you're loving yourself and taking care of yourself? What do you have you encountered that?
Yeah, not as much as I thought I might have, but I think because people know the story and they know that it was pretty traumatic, so
Yes,
to have gone
right.
from one end of the pendulum to the other.
There's still a lot of people out there though that feel that way.
that they think it's narcissistic.
Yes, absolutely. That self-love
well-
is not a good thing.
Well, society has set it up that, and even religions, if you grow up,
Yes,
in a
right.
religion, or if you grow up in a society where it tells you that, you don't make yourself number one, you're of service, and to give is best.
Yes, right.
So when I encounter people that have said that, I just explain again my story, that I've gone through the depths of hell, so to speak, and have come out triumphant now. And the way I did it was to make myself number one. How else could I be able to serve anyone else from an empty vessel? I
Right.
couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah, it's like the airplane, the whole airplane analogy, putting the mask on yourself first.
Right.
Of course.
Yeah, perfect analogy.
Now, how do you work with your clients when they have experienced a travesty? Their husband has told them the night before they want a divorce, or they've just got fired from their job or something.
Right.
How do you work with somebody in terms of the self-love in that respect when they've just gone through it?
I hold them. I literally hold them.
You hold them physically, you
yeah.
hold them?
I
Oh,
hold
so
them.
you give them love.
The space, the sacred space they need to fall apart.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
A lot of times you have to fall apart before you can build back up.
Yes, absolutely.
So a lot of my work is very hands-on, literally hands-on. There's talking, but when a trauma like that happens, you want the person to be able to process their emotions and have a safe place to be able to do so, and be gentle and kind to themselves, that they have to allow these feelings to emerge.
Right.
Forget what you think your family wants of you, or you don't want to break down and look, weak.
Right.
Allow yourself in that moment to be weak and to be vulnerable and to show up very raw and very real, because that's going to purge. You're going to be able to purge all that. You have to go through it in order to get over it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Regarding self-love, how do you start with somebody with that? When somebody comes to you and they're very broken, or even if they're not that broken, but they want to have you as their therapist, how do you start the process of teaching them self-love, or having them love themselves? How do you do that?
A lot of times mirror work. It's
Mirror
called
work,
mirror
okay.
work, where I have them take home as an assignment or do right there in the office. I have them look into a mirror and just gaze at themselves. And that is one of the main techniques that Louise Hay teaches, is adoring yourself through gazing at yourself in the mirror. And so many times, I know when that was posed to me the first time, I wanted to break the mirror. Never had I looked at myself with love. I looked at myself going, okay, good, you look good in that outfit, your eyes look good. Never did I
assessment.
Yeah. Never did I drop into, through my eyes, down into my heart and tap into my spirit like that, ever. And so having them in that stillness, to practice being in that stillness and really get to know themselves. And that's a very difficult exercise to do, but it's one of the most ones that will give you the best breakthrough. That one takes time, but that's how I start them out, is to gaze at yourself with love. And then journal on it. And then we talk about the process. What are you feeling? What are you thinking? What emotions, what thoughts, what words are coming up? And let's share about that and look at that.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Where are you right now in your soul and your spirit and your heart? Where are you, having gone through what you've gone through and working with other people and working so hard on yourself?
Yeah.
How do you feel? Where are you?
I still have more work to do. I definitely have deeper layers to delve into, but I think I'm approaching becoming whole soon.
And how do you know that?
How much joy I have and gratitude I wake up with.
Oh, okay.
When I open
That's
my
a good
eyes,
indicator, yes.
The first thing I say, most of the time, I would say about 80% of the time, is thank you. I have a smile on my face. And it's automatic now. It's not like I have to do the exercises to train my brain to do this anymore. It really is when I open my eyes, I don't think, oh God, it's gonna be a long day, I have so much to do. The first thing is thank you, hi, good morning. And I'm saying good morning to all my divine guidance that I know has been my cheerleaders. Yeah.
That's great, yeah. When you wake up happy, that's exciting.
And when I don't, it's an indicator that, okay.
Something's happening.
Yeah. So it's now 80%, I would say, of the time that I wake up. Yeah.
And what are your dreams?
My dreams are to be able to be a keynote speaker and spread this message far and wide across the land of hope and inspiration, and of actual, tangible how-tos, to give people the at-home tools they can use to begin the process.
Of loving themselves.
Yes, yeah, that you don't have to wait.
It's so important, because one by one, when we shine our light, love ourselves and shine our light, I mean, our whole world changes.
Right.
It's so important, your work.
Correct. So really getting the message out there in a big way. Writing book 2, eventually having a center where I can have hundreds of people coming to learn these techniques and apply them to themselves, get their lives on track, and then go forward into the world as light workers themselves, as soldiers of well-being, and show their families and their friends and their colleagues, and just spread it. Spread the message of you must take action, though. You must take action. If you want your life to change, if you want something to be better in your life, then you have to do the steps and take the action to manifest that.
Yes, right.
And
And your book, tell us about your book.
Well,
Girl from the Hood Gone Good. Isn't that great? Girl from the Hood Gone Good.
The book is part memoir. It tells about the story, as I mentioned, the molestation and then the adolescent years spent with drugs and drama and chaos and much domestic violence. And then it goes into what I did. What did I actually do to get out of that? What were the steps that I took that got me from a place of such self-loathing into one that is self-accepting and with much more inner peace, and the how-tos.
That's great. So you give actual tools in this book
Yes.
of how to feel good about yourself, how to move on with your life,
Yeah.
how to have a successful life, and,
Correct. Correct.
you know, which is basically feeling good about ourselves and making good choices.
Yeah. So
That's
part
great.
memoir and part self-help book.
That's super.
Yeah. One of many to come.
That's great. Well, thank you, Ana
Thank
Maria. It's been
you.
wonderful having
Thank
you,
you
and
for
I really
having
wish you
me.
the best.
I appreciate that.
I really, you know, respect your work, and it's so
Thanks.
important, and I honor you for it.
Thank you. It's deeply appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks. And thank you for joining us today. And thank you to my wonderful crew. I appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next time.